welcome to United by Rice. I'm Junko Goda, and I'm here once again with my co-host Ben Lee. Hi Ben, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, Junko?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Down here in SoCal, I don't know. Some people have allergy issues. I am one of those people. Between seasons, it sucks. So, some folks might have noticed, maybe in some previous episodes, I sounded very nasally, but I still show up for these podcasts. So there you go.
You do. You're a trooper, and you sound better today. You do
Yeah.
sound better today.
I,
Is it also really hot down there too? I heard a few days ago it was like 100 degrees.
oh no, it's gonna be really hot in like midweek, I think. Thankfully, I live south of LA proper, so there's tons of microclimates here, and I tend to be on the cool side, thankfully.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Well, up here in the Bay
Yeah.
Area, it's nice
As
and
always.
normally,
Yeah.
70 degrees, pleasant.
Right.
Um, well, any news to report? Anything that you've done over the last few days that you want to share?
Yeah. I actually, let's see. I'm like, there's something oh, I was actually watching a couple of Back to the Futures, like I think it was like AMC. I think it was like the Back to the Future trios. And I think I hadn't sat down to watch Back to the Future 3 in a little while. So that was a nice little refresher. And like all those movies, they're still so cute, you know?
Yes. Which is the one that's like in the like a western? Is that 3
That's
or is that
3.
2?
Yeah, that
Okay.
was 3. I got a nice refresher. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Those are classics. So does that mean you like channel surf still?
Yeah. So I do have access to DirecTV. So I usually default I'm looking for shows like The Scorpion King or The Last Mummy, or I didn't realize The Mummy was actually rebooted at one point. So yeah, I like
With
watching
like
that
Tom
stuff.
Cruise, right? Like
Yes, there was a Tom
yes.
Cruise. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay. All right." I thought it was always with, what's his face? He's
Brendan
so funny.
Fraser.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a pleasant surprise as I was slightly channel surfing, but I usually go to, like, TNT or AMC for those, like, early 2000s, like, nice, fun,
Sure.
actiony stuff. Yeah. Did you see
Yeah.
anything lately?
Not so much. I've been really kind of binging on the shows that I'm writing about, right? So, and I don't think I've talked about it much on this podcast, but I really got my start in this space writing for a site called Awards Focus, and I still write for Awards Focus, and it is Emmy Awards season. So I've been doing a lot of articles on cast and crew from Andor, Adolescent, Black Mirror, even some shows that maybe are more dark horsey, but like Disclaimer. So
Okay.
I've been watching a lot of these shows, binging them, sometimes rewatching them. And then, of course, the last few days, I've been watching a lot of Your Friends and Neighbors because, of course, today's guest, and we'll introduce her in a moment, Olivia
Yes.
Munn is
Woo.
one of the key actresses on that show. Before we go there, you reminded me of something. When I think of my old FX and TNT surfing days, I always think of like what movie is your guilty pleasure, right? Because you and I
Ah,
live in this world where we like to pretend we really know TV and film and what is good and critically acclaimed.
right.
Um, but there's definitely some movies that come on that I'm sure are not critically acclaimed, but I will watch it every single time.
Like Fifth Element.
Oh,
Classic.
that
Classic,
is a
classic,
classic.
classic. At
Yes.
least I think so.
Yes, although
Or
I think that
yeah.
one is still, I think you get critic points for that. I actually don't remember how well it was reviewed or whatnot.
It was definitely under the radar. Like, no, it wasn't like a big buzzy movie. I don't remember it being big and buzzy, but it just has consistently held a very important part in everyone's hearts, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
90s sci-fi, right? Like kind of a
Yeah.
special time.
It is. Yeah, like Bruce Willis was at the height of his yeah, pretty much, yeah, he was doing everything back then, and was it Mila Jovovich? Yeah, too as well. A classic, classic. But yeah, yeah. So yeah, but speaking of was it Your Friends and Neighbors, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So amusingly enough, I had my best friend was with me over the weekend and she hadn't started seeing the show yet. So I recorded the interview and then we started and she started watching it. I started rewatching it again. But it's a fun one.
Yes. It is fun, right? I think John Hamm, maybe always gets my attention. You already know how I feel about Olivia.
Yes.
She's always going to get my attention. Um, but it's a good show. It's one of those. What shows are like this? A little bit Ozarky, right? When you've got what normal
Yeah.
people who then, for one reason or another, have to kind of go down a
Yeah,
less,
yeah. I think in that respect it's a little bit, Breaking Bad-ish.
yeah. Breaking
Uh
Bad's a good example. Yep.
yeah, it's Breaking Bad with taking advantage of one's own wealth
Yeah.
in a way, and the knowledge of being wealthy in a
Well, we can
way.
give
So,
the synopsis of the show, right? So
yeah,
John
yeah.
Hamm plays Cooper, or Coop, they call him, and he is, I think, just 2 years divorced from his ex-wife, played by Amanda Peet. And the reason, at least the reason that you're first told they got divorced, is because she has had an affair with a former NBA player, an NBA All-Star. So,
Who's also
it,
his friend, his best friend.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So, yeah.
and yeah, and they live in, one of your, probably seven-figure, eight-figure home community. Everybody's a hedge fund manager, a wealthy millionaire and billionaire, and we see most of the show take place, in expensive homes, expensive parties, and at a country club. Um, but then John, or his character Coop, suddenly, on top of being divorced, loses his job. And when the financial pressures come, he
What do
decides,
you do?
as he's visiting these friends' rich homes, it's like, oh, there's a watch that this person may not notice is missing.
Yeah, and choices are made. Um, and within that, Olivia is a friend within this large group, and I guess she's an outsider to folks who are already rich, right? Is yeah,
Mhm.
um,
She's married in, right? So she's
yeah,
married into this wealth
yeah,
versus comes from this wealth.
yeah, and she is also well on her way to her character is well on to being divorced, right? Like they're in the middle of it. They haven't quite
Mhm.
finished. I think. Yeah.
That's right. I
Yeah.
think it's like 4 months or something. Yep.
Yeah. 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 So it's just a whole bunch of, I suppose, like rich people who make interesting decisions and sometimes illegal decisions. And just what happens to the mess
Yeah.
of
It's a little
this
bit.
bunch of people.
You mentioned Breaking Bad. I think that's a good comparison. Maybe it's a little bit of like Breaking Bad plus like Desperate Housewives. There's a little bit of that mystery because they're on top of what we're talking about. There's a murder that happens that you learn about early, but then you don't really hear much about for the first few episodes. Even the circumstances of his firing has some mystery to
Right.
uncover. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it kind of plays between those two worlds, and like both of those shows is incredibly easy to watch.
Yeah, yeah, and Olivia does a great job of just yeah, like a soon to be single lady trying to figure out her place in amongst her friends as well as um I guess it's a spoiler if I went too far. So I'll just
Yeah.
stop there.
Well, let me ask you about Olivia a couple questions. So first of all, for everyone listening, Olivia is half Vietnamese, and we're so excited to have her on because she's, besides being a great actress and really a great comedian as well. Um, she's a huge advocate for the AAPI community. She's definitely leans into that part of her identity, as well as recently and sadly, but fingers crossed she's doing quite well. Has been a big advocate for breast cancer as well, given her diagnosis and
Yeah, and
very
I
public
didn't.
battle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, it was very public, but, if I'm not following her on social media, I'm not gonna find out. But yeah, prepping for the interview, yeah, was when I started reading up that she like she had kids in 2021, but then right a year later, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and yeah, she had to go through multiple surgeries. So it's very enlightening to hear that, like, straight from her and her specific experience. Yeah, like, yes, cancer sucks.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
but each cancer journey is so specific to everyone. So it was really important to hear that from Olivia, but also her message that she wanted to make sure that people, especially if you have a past history of breast cancer or cancer in general, to get tested more frequently than you think you should, for sure.
That's right. That's right. I think importantly, she had had mammograms and there was no detection. It wasn't until she went and did the genetic test, I think somehow related to when she was having children, that
Yeah.
they found out that she not only was prone to cancer, but actually had cancer and in fact several tumor sites. So it
Yeah.
really is a
Yeah.
message to everyone is like, get tested, know your family
Yeah.
history.
And it's kind of similar to, former President Biden. It just hit the news last night. But, he was just tested by the doctors, like earlier this year. So prostate cancer can be something that just is very aggressive. So yeah, like, just something to be aware. Cancer, it doesn't matter how old you are, it will
Yep.
still kick your ass
Yep.
if it's allowed to.
Old or young, yep. So my question for you on Olivia, just kind of changing gears a little bit. She's, I certainly first, and I think probably most of the world knew her from, if not Attack of the Show, then
Yeah.
some of her time with The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. In fact, she actually did a cameo even this recent season, but she was a memorable correspondent, I think in the first era of Jon Stewart back in 2010, 2011. But then she really got her acting, I think, chops on a show called The Newsroom, right? That's the Aaron Sorkin HBO
Yeah, yeah.
show.
I think, because up until then, yeah, she did do Psylocke. She was an
Yeah,
X-Men,
yeah.
um, and all that stuff. But yeah, Newsroom is definitely what um clinched her, I think, as a serious actor, so to
Well,
speak.
yeah, and I
Um,
was going to ask you the question. When I was preparing for the interview with Olivia, it definitely struck me that she's a big star, right? Like every social media post she makes gets written up by every single outlet, right? She just draws a lot of attention. And I couldn't quite figure out, like, what was the moment that she became a big, like, super famous, right?
right, right, right. It was
Eh,
pre-Newsroom. You know what?
Pre-newsroom.
Was it like, honestly? Yeah, that's true. Because she would cause a buzz, like, when it came to PETA topics, PETA
Yeah.
related topics, but there has to be something before that.
Well, no, actually, I don't think so. I think you're on to something, right? I think she's someone who has become famous not solely for her acting roles or
Yeah, but
television or film
yeah,
performances.
strong advocacy.
Exactly, exactly. Because
Yeah.
I'm forgetting about PETA. Actually, both of us brought our pups onto the podcast
Yes.
because we remembered what a big puppy
Yeah.
advocate and PETA advocate she has been. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's right. I think it's kind of the combination of being a public figure, but also really putting her face toward a lot of different
'Cause she was in a
advocacy
lot of ad
things.
campaigns.
Yes.
I don't know what years it was, but yeah, she was hitting the PETA ad campaigns very hard. Maybe when she wasn't that, you know, uh, when she wasn't on TV that often, I think instead she was having a lot of print for PETA is kind of what I'm recalling. But
Sure.
yeah.
Well, now power couple, right? She's married to John Mulaney, who's had
Yeah.
having I don't know if it's the time of his life, but he's certainly having a huge moment in pop culture with all of
Yeah,
his
yeah.
success.
And I'll be honest, I don't keep track of who's married to who or who divorced who or anything. and like kind of, up similarly up there with the, I don't keep track of when people have cancer and when they're recovered. um, yeah, I'm like, I always, I'll first and foremost like start with their work.
Sure.
So
Sure. Yeah.
I didn't even put like to, yeah, like, yeah,
Oh,
I'm
you didn't
just,
know. You didn't know they were together.
nah. Like, I don't care. Like, that's
Well,
nice, but I don't care too much.
um, well, speaking to the interview, as we mentioned, she shares quite a bit about her journey
Yeah.
through the diagnosis and treatment. She
Yeah,
was very
and
open.
footnote, this was all during COVID too. She had her kids during the COVID years and also treatment during COVID years. Right towards
Yep.
the end, but still, yeah, yeah.
Yep. But she also was quite funny, as we would expect, and then actually ended the conversation realizing that you were Japanese and that she spoke some Japanese. And I'm curious, I didn't know what you guys were talking about, obviously. What was the little exchange you had?
Oh no, no. It was she had spent, I think she spent a couple years of grade school in Japan because of her uh dad's military background. So and a newsroom. That's right. I think there was an episode where she busts out Japanese in one episode. I remember that well. So yeah, yeah, she was just it was just like just basic like stuff that
Small
yeah,
talk?
we weren't having a huge conversation or anything, but it was like, oh, it was nice, nice chatting with you in Japanese, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, kudos to her to even come on, but also, to take on this role that in many ways could be a defining role for her. And again, she talks about the decision to play Sam at this time in her life, just after going through, as you mentioned, really starting
Oh,
with COVID, really going through a lot, postpartum, cancer, and then two young children, right? So
yeah.
you talk about women that we can all admire for what they represent and what they can accomplish.
Yep, definitely, definitely. So, yeah, so I hope folks enjoy the interview. And yeah, this is Olivia Munn. So this is Renzo, a little
Aw,
distraction, I guess. This will be a distracted interview.
it's
Oh,
Charlie.
gosh, look at that face.
Yeah.
so
And he's a
totally okay to. Oh, there goes Renzo for
Oh,
whatever
I wish my
reason.
dogs were here with us.
welcome. We are awards focused and united by Rice, and thank you for joining us. And I very small story to tell you. I had a choice to make this evening. I was actually going to go to some guy named John Mulaney's FYC event, Netflix FYC event.
Yeah, yeah, that's
And I
right.
was like, well, that's a lot for me to juggle. I have to figure out where I would do that interview then because it wouldn't be anywhere close to my home. So
Uh, you
I
picked
decided
me
to stay
over.
right
You picked
here.
me over John.
100%. That is,
Well, you can still, you know what? You can still talk about his FYC event.
you
Wait,
know,
speaking of United by Rice, big question.
Yep.
yes.
Do you wash your rice before cooking it?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yes.
Junko.
Absolute yes for
I
me.
do.
So it depends on the starch levels, though. Your desired starch levels.
You go to H Mart, you get your big bag of
Yeah.
like, jasmine rice. You wash it before every use.
I get short grain, like Japanese rice, and I do just because my mom has told me because all the rice has to go through a machine, right?
Yeah.
And it gets milled a little bit. So I think technically it should be a food safe environment, but like I don't know. What my
I
mom
know.
told me was that it's around machines. It's better
Look,
to like rinse it.
It's the more socially acceptable answers to say that you wash it. I was just hoping to find an equally lazy person on the
No.
other side of this, but no.
Well,
But it
it's
does.
not,
Yeah, it depends on the starch levels that you're looking for, though. But jasmine is lower starch than like short grain, so it kind of is okay, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
Speaking of,
I
go
feel
ahead.
like when chefs are asked the question, they say no. And so I think you're justified in being able to say,
Okay.
yeah.
Speaking of John, I'll tell you my goal to turn him into full Asian has it's getting pretty close. He knows how to make the rice in the rice cooker, and I don't. Like he knows the right
What kind of
measurement. He
yeah.
knows because he asked my mom. He's like, "How do I make it?" He makes it perfectly. It's
Oh,
not
I
too
see.
rough.
Oh,
It's like he is that's his job at the house. Whenever I need rice, in fact, I mean, I know how, I just don't do it anymore. And I
yeah.
actually kind of forgot literally like how to make it perfect. And I've
Oh, yeah.
chosen to not learn it because I like that he has this thing. He feels a lot of pride in it.
Okay, okay. And do you have just the standard rice cooker? Because I've seen those like really high-end Korean ones that talk to
No, no,
you.
no. We have like the one that has Hello Kitty on it. You know, like what
Oh,
brand is? I can look up the brand name if you want, but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
that one, and it's really like on and then warm. That's it.
It's like that Sojurushi or whatever brand, right? It's got to be
Yeah,
that brand.
the
Yeah.
sushi, yeah, that's from
Yeah, yeah.
Japan.
Mhm.
Mine is like over 20 years old and it still works.
And that's the one you want. I don't want the other ones. That's the one.
Yeah, and it's very simple. Poop. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Zoji
Well,
Rushi.
yeah, I
yeah.
guess we should maybe talk about your show. I don't know.
Okay.
Or we could just keep avoiding it.
No, I would love to. Have you guys
Yeah.
seen the whole season?
I'm pretty much up to I hate shows that are just one by one. I'm a binger and I'm like, okay, I'll wait. Okay, I'll watch it again. Okay. So yeah, think pretty much caught up. I'm like, I keep like getting confused. I'm like, is it the end of the season or not? Is there another
It's
one next
episode
We
week?
will go
seven.
until the end of this month.
This month.
In
Okay.
May.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I'm
I think
caught
there's
up.
only seven
Yeah.
right now, right? That have aired, I believe.
Well, there's only two more left.
Ah, yeah. So
Yeah,
I
you
am
make
as
it.
knowledgeable as the general public.
Yeah.
I'm loving it. I'm not all the way to current. I'm a few in, but I'm loving it and love your character a lot. And
Thank you.
I think a question I have for you or we have for you is, you've had a couple years that, okay, breast cancer diagnosis, couple children. It's not the time that someone usually takes on a big prestige
Yeah.
Apple TV Plus show. So would love to hear what about this role stood out to you and why you ended up deciding to do it.
It's a great question. So and you are right. It been, gosh, 2020 was the pandemic.
Mhm.
Then I was pregnant in 2021. 2022, I had a horrible postpartum anxiety that lasted the whole year. Then once I was just getting out of that postpartum haze, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and then my fifth surgery for cancer was just before we started filming. So the decision to do the project was actually surprising for me. I had made this decision that I wanted to be behind the scenes. I wanted to like edit or write or produce, because I needed to, what I thought, uh, a career that would be easier on me than having to be on set all the time.
Mhm.
And then I got the call from my agent. They said, "Hey, there's this show," and they knew, because I had already told them, "Don't put me up for anything. I
Right.
believe I'm done." And so they gave me a strong pitch because they knew they had to kind of break through my mindset. So
Yeah.
my agent Jamie said, "Look, I'm just going to give you the whole lay of the land. You know, people are really only doing, like, streamers, all the networks are really only doing like 5 shows each,
Mhm.
and there's not that many shows out there, and they're like, and out of all the shows and all the streamers and all the networks, there is like 5 top shows, and this is one of them. So
Mm.
he, they want you for this. It's John Hamm, Jonathan Tropper, Craig Gillespie is directing it. Just read it." And the truth is, once they said Craig Gillespie, Jonathan Tropper, John Hamm, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to do this.
Mm.
And so when I read the script, I only got the first 2 episodes, and I already loved it. And Jonathan Tropper had scheduled a call, and I was just like, "Your writing is amazing," and it was just, I understood that world so much, and I understood from being on the outside of that world. I grew up in a middle class family, grew up in a military family in the Air Force, moving around a lot. Now being in Hollywood and being around some of the most powerful, wealthy people, and really seeing how they move in the world, and he told me where my character was going to go, and I just was like, this is this is a character in a world I've never played in. And after that call with him, I said, of course, like I had to do it. And I'm so happy I did it. I'm so happy that it came my way. I'm so grateful that it came my way. I know these things don't come around very often. I'm so grateful that he thought of me for it. And I'm really grateful that I was healthy enough to be able to give it my best.
Mhm. And I'm actually a little curious, like what are some of the things coming into production? Like what kind of conversations you have with production? Be like, hey, I'm kind of coming out of this funk. Like,
Mhm.
they're obviously not going to be like, okay, Olivia, you're going to have a 14-hour day today. They're not throwing you
Mhm.
that often. Like, do you have like set
Well,
boundaries pretty
well,
much?
or actually, the very first scene is a sex scene, or one of the
Mhm.
very first scenes, right? Which also
Yeah.
has to be, I don't know if that's the first scene you shot, but yeah, like what I'm
Mhm.
very curious how I think to Junko's question, like how producers not only treated the funk or haze you might have been in, but also like embracing your sexuality after such a traumatic cancer diagnosis and process that you've been
Yeah,
through.
and I'm assuming there was a coordinator there for that. And well, first of all, it's wonderful being in an age where you have a coordinator now for stuff like that, and you can really break it down into your
Mhm.
context too. Yeah, yeah, just kind of being a
Sorry.
new person by the time yeah, a different
Yeah.
new person, right? By the time you
Yeah.
were coming into this.
Yeah. It's an interesting, being pregnant is a changed my, like, it's just an experience. Like it just, any experience in life, I don't think that you come out the other side the same. And
Mhm.
being pregnant is a big life change for me. And then becoming a mother and then understanding the complications of postpartum and like what women go through um and the so much compassion for mothers going through it. And there there is not enough compassion for mothers.
Mhm.
People don't understand what happens to our bodies, the hormones that it takes to create life. And I had to use a surrogate for my
Mhm.
daughter Meg, who's 7 months old, and we were there when they put her tiny little embryo into our surrogate. And I'm telling you, it is like it fits on the top of a pin. We as women take that little thing and grow it into actual life. So what happens to our bodies is it's so extreme.
It is,
And then
yeah.
the hormones that come in and drop. And I just have so much compassion for the other mothers who are experiencing that. And
Mhm.
then the moment where you're in a doctor's office and they say the words, you have cancer,
Yeah.
and everything that goes, and then the surgeries and a double mastectomy, and then having my, partial hysterectomy, my ovaries taken. I mean, there's just a lot
Mhm.
that I just kind of barreled through, just kept doing the thing I had to do. And when I accepted the show, I, I hadn't yet gone public with my breast cancer diagnosis. And I, I told Jonathan Tropper, I said, hey, this is what I've been going through. I will be there. I have the energy to do it, but I just want you to know. And he was so gracious and so warm and so kind. He said, whatever you need, we'll make
Mhm.
sure that you're going to be okay. And they're really great about it. Yeah, we still have the 14-hour days, but like they're very thoughtful. And we have got amazing
Yeah.
ADs. Our line producer, Lori Keith Douglas, is amazing. So they really think about when they need to bring me in and how much energy they're going to expend if like I'm just sitting around. And if we're in
Right.
like a big house shooting, which we do often because that's the world we're in, they make a nice little room for me. It's very nice. And speaking to the sex scenes that you brought up, we have an amazing intimacy coordinator. Her name's Lizzie. Lizzie is an
Nice.
dancer.
Mm.
And it's important to note because there's a lot of conversation about intimacy coordinators. And right now in the world. And
Mhm.
I think it's important to understand what exactly that means. There are fight coordinators, there are stunt coordinators, there are intimacy coordinators. They are not bodyguards. They are not people who are babysitting you. They come in and they make sure that everyone's comfortable. They make sure that everyone's safe, and they help you coordinate the intimate scenes to make it as believable, to make it as interesting, to make it as visually intriguing as we all want it to be. And everyone was thoughtful about that going in. And we were really lucky that we had such an amazing intimacy coordinator who was, said like, look, her job was to say to both me and John Hamm and anybody else who's doing this, like, you tell me what you're comfortable with, and then we can work around that. And the art will never suffer because of whatever you're not comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
And hey there, Pop.
Yep. This is the Distracted Podcast. Yeah.
And then I think the thing that I was most grateful about was, I have pretty extreme scars from a double mastectomy, and then there are a couple of places on the front to the sides where there's some tumors that really had to be dug out. So they're kind of dense. And so I had that insecurity of like, gosh, what will it look like on camera? But they were like, don't worry, we'll make sure everything's okay. Also, my character hasn't had a double mastectomy. So I was like, that's not going to play.
Yeah.
And then, but then there was insecurity of like, I guess this is a human thing of like, even if it's not seen on camera, what will my co-star think of it? Will it,
Right.
And everybody is just so kind and thoughtful. And when I talked about my breast cancer publicly, John Hamm's, talked with me about it and opened up about people in his life who have had cancer. And he just was really compassionate. And I've had zero insecurity about filming, and have had a really nice time. And our intimacy coordinator is back again this season that we're filming. And we're just really very lucky.
It's if you could take us back to the decision you made to go public with it, right? And again, knowing how much you're already juggling in your career, and good thing your husband's also not busy at all, right? Like just juggling all of that, knowing that you were going to go out there with that statement, you also, I'm sure, knew came then the responsibility to become an advocate. Was there ever any hesitation, and what made you want to do it?
It's a great question. When I first was diagnosed, I said to John, like, do not tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell your family. Don't tell my family. And it was just because it's not because I was ashamed of it or afraid to tell people. It was that I knew I couldn't deal with anyone else's fear and worry, or even that look where somebody's like trying to be careful. And I just couldn't deal with any of that energy because I already knew I had all of my worries and fears. But then very quickly after that, I saw him, I could see that he was struggling in his worry. And I realized that he needs his own support system as well. So I just said, let's tell whoever you want to tell, the people that we trust. And it wasn't until there was a time somewhere, maybe like after my third surgery, I think, and I was looking through photos of me and my son, and I came across this video of him and I playing, and we're laughing. And I realized in that moment, I had cancer, but I was not aware of it. I had already had a clear mammogram. I remember just being like, that was around the time that I was like doing all my stuff to make sure I stay healthy. And then I thought about all of the other women out there who are walking around having done a clear mammogram and thinking that they were okay, yet may have breast cancer inside and it growing without them knowing. And then at that moment, I knew that I had to tell people about this, especially since what I had to offer was not something that's going to cost $5,000. There's people are touting these MRI specialty machines and these concierge services, and you're like, it's only $5,000. Like $5,000, that's insane. And what I had to offer was this lifetime risk assessment test. It's a free online test that anyone can take, and you answer some things like, how old were you when you had your first child? Have you had any children? How old were you when you had your first period? has anybody else in your family had breast cancer? Things like that. It gives you a score. It's literally the quickest test.
Yeah, yeah,
Anything
yeah.
above 20% is considered high risk. Mine was 37.3%. And again, I had already had a clear mammogram and a clear ultrasound. And then I go do an MRI, and that's when they find it. And it wasn't just a little bit of breast cancer. It was multifocal, which means in different parts of the breast, multi-quadrant, which means, well, multifocal means it's more than just one in one section. Multi-quadrant is more than one section of the breast, and then bilateral is in both breasts. So like that saved my life. And I had no idea the response that I would get from that and how far reaching it would go, and how many women I would meet whose lives have been saved. It is an incredibly humbling experience, and it is if I've never been one to care about legacy, and I still don't care about legacy, but if I can leave one big mark on the world besides being an amazing mother to my children, it's that every woman on this globe knows about this test and make sure that their daughters and nieces and granddaughters know about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that may not happen, right? Maybe not every woman, but you certainly have reached many, and I'm sure lives will be saved because of that.
Well, I think the more people talk about it and put it out there or ask me about it, the farther the message goes.
Yeah, and I think also, like, speaking of legacy, though, like, legacy is such a grand word, but I think when you put it that way, it's almost like leaving a little mark of your love, on the earth, right? And if it means that someone does the test early, I'm starting to tear up. I'm just like remembering my friend who he died of a colonoscopy, but it's because he had a past history, and he had to be on top of it. It just like started on the outside of the colon instead of inside. So I'm like remembering. I think it's also important for people to know that cancer is not a solo journey. Like, we've all been touched by cancer, especially, within our like modern age. So
I'm so sorry about your friend.
Thank you.
My best friend from high school. She had a 5-year-old son, and the beginning of COVID, she was diagnosed with colon cancer and died within weeks. And my stepmother had passed away from colon cancer. That one's a brutal one for sure.
So has everyone also gotten their colonoscopies?
Yeah,
I have.
They say, okay, start getting it earlier. Getting it earlier.
40, 45 or something like that. Yeah.
Men should be 40 now. So yes.
Yeah.
So sorry, Olivia, we started with puppies and rice and didn't tell you that we were going to get so deep on this podcast.
Yeah.
No, it's okay.
Really appreciate you opening up with that.
Yeah, but this is important things too. And yeah.
Well, it means, there was this CBS reporter, 31, 32 years old. And when I first talked about it last year, her boss said, could you go off and go to the doctor and we do a whole segment on it? And again, early 30s, she found out she had breast cancer because of that. And she never would have if I hadn't talked about it. And I feel like that's like, by talking about it, what I'm asking the world and other people is to help me spread that message. And because now that she's done it and she was brave enough to talk about it, she's saving more people. And it's just us talking about it. You are, also helping to save people, because I've met so many people that it has saved. I've been in communication with people who are in the UK, someone who's in Australia, met someone from South Africa that it's been a friend of a friend in China. It's been amazing.
That's great.
We'd be remiss to not ask you, are you on any type of maintenance therapies now, or are you feeling pretty good?
I am on yes, I'm on medication, and the medication can be brutal at times. And I am doing okay today, and I'm doing okay in general, I think. But anybody who's going through a hormone type of breast cancer understands what I'm saying right now. Like, the medications are tough. I went into a surgical menopause because I had my ovaries taken out.
Right.
And that was in order to eliminate this other really harsh medication that was debilitating for me. And that was a choice I made. And, but my spirits are high and I'm very happy. I'm just can be tired a lot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
right now I'm doing good. And I think I do think there's something, and just in the world when you get so much love when you have something, as we all know, something that you work on that you're really proud of, like it gives you this drive in life and in a pride in life that is so important. And doing the show and the reception that it's gotten and the fact that we're filming season 2 as everyone's watching it is like, it all feeds into each other and it
Nice.
it gives me this boost of energy to feel like, okay, like it's, there's so much exciting stuff to go, and I can be here for it.
Do you find the character that you play actually a cathartic experience as well?
Yeah. I mean, it's really fun to play someone who is on the precipice of losing it all. I mean, she is someone who
I was wondering how you're going to describe her. I was like, what are you going to, I'm like,
she, unlike everyone else, she was not born into wealth. And although she's worked really hard, she has also manipulated this social strata and sacrificed a lot to get to where she is. And I think playing her has been really fun study and interrogation into the psyche of human nature and how far someone will go to maintain their social station and wealth and privilege.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, we're getting the wrap, so we got a couple quick questions for you. One I just have to ask: if John Hamm were to break into your house, what do you think he would steal?
I'll tell you something that's annoying about John Hamm.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't care about stuff.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about, you give the guy a couch, a TV to watch SNL and sports, and he's good.
Yeah, he just pretty much needs to like live like an assassin with like a milk crate and an air mattress and a TV.
Telling you, I thought it was annoyingly charming, but now I think it's very suspicious. You're right. That's right. He is like an assassin. Huh.
Okay, so this is our very, very last question because we are called United by Rice. What is your favorite rice dish? It can also, noodles also count, and it can be something, a dish you like now, your favorite dish you like.
It's my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
It's my favorite dish, not just rice dish, but dish. In Vietnamese, it's called banh ua, and are you Vietnamese?
No, but my best friend who's actually visiting me right now is.
Live near San Jose, so there's lots of good Vietnamese food here.
What ethnicity?
No, I'm Japanese.
Japanese.
I'm actually half Chinese and then a little bit English, Irish, like you.
Oh, look at that. Nihongo hanashimasu ka?
Shogun no, during the award season, I'm interpreter.
You were there.
Yeah, so like the Globes when Tadanobu won, I was the one like fist pumping quietly.
That's so exciting.
Yeah. So that's I'm an actor as well, but definitely been keeping a roof over my head with interpreting and translating.
I hope to go back to Japan soon. Nihongo o少しだけ.
ですよね. So. Yeah.
So it's the banh ua is the rice patty, and then it's like sliced up like a meatloaf, like an Asian meatloaf, not like Americans think of meatloaf, but it's like an Asian meatloaf that's like packed in and like cold, and it has like fried onions, cilantro, fish sauce, chili paste.
Yes.
Oh,
now I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh my God, my mom makes it for me. She brings it in from Oklahoma because she's the classic Asian mom. She thinks that only her grocery store has everything.
Of course.
I'm like, we have like Little Saigon in Orange County. Like we can go there. And she's like, no. Only her Calwin in Oklahoma. Yeah.
Only
Well,
place that has it.
maybe John has to graduate now since he makes perfect rice.
Yeah.
Teach him how to make
If he
this
could
Ooh.
dish.
make me bon uk, it would be, oh my God. I'll never leave.
Ooh. Next
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
Mm.
It was so lovely to have you. Thank you so much. Congratulations
Thank
on
you
wonderful
so
Yeah.
much.
show.
Thank you guys
Yeah.
so much.
Can't wait to finish the season.
Yeah.
Bye. And Renzo says bye. He's just
Bye,
looking out the
Buffy.
window. All
Bye.
right. I'll see you next
Next
time.
on it.
Bye.